lost a lot of goddamn good pilots up there. A lot of them left behind. They're never coming back.
Access denied.
They gave their lives. They gave their sacrifice so that we can have one
Access
victory.
denied.
Just one. We've gone in
Access
several times for
denied.
this mission and failed. Every time. The intelligence said it was achievable. The intelligence was not wrong. The execution was. Run 12, same result. Run 37, same result.
Password accepted.
Run 562, that's when we got
Accessing
it.
Sam Bell database.
Oh dear God.
My hair's falling out. Other stuff. Just the time. Over and out.
Come on, kill me. Come on, kill me. Come on, kill me. Come on, kill me.
And kill me this game did several times over and over and over. What's up everyone, this is Zero Lux. Welcome to my Crimzon Clover Arrange Boosted 1cc Out Loud. And I just have to start off by saying I had a ton of fun with this mode and with this clear. And start off with a little bit of background. This Crimzon Clover was probably one of the first shmups that I purchased back in 2024 when I first got into shmups. I want to say, like, this was a long time ago, but I want to say that, you know, that was the time where I was going through all of the evergreen shmup content on YouTube, which really consists mostly of the Electric Underground and Shmup Junkie. And I probably would have to say that maybe in one of Mark's videos, he had maybe described Crimzon Clover as, you know, a spiritual successor to Cave, like maybe the closest thing we would get to a Cave game after Cave seemingly stopped developing shmups, which is interesting because we know that Cave is up to something now, but at the time and for the most recent past, that was the case. So I remember picking this up and, you know, just jumping into it, playing it, getting a sense of the visuals, the pace, and the feel of the game. And I just thought it was an amazing looking game, and it still is. It's a visual achievement, no matter which mode you're playing. But in these boosted modes where things kind of speed up and there's a lot of stuff on screen, there's a lot of bullet density, it's just a beautiful game. And whether you're braking or double braking in regular mode, it's just insane all the things that happen on the screen. And it is very rewarding once you start to navigate through some of that stuff successfully. But you know, the normal mode of this game, I don't know, it's not for me yet. I don't think I'm ready to clear the normal mode just yet. And it's not for a lack of trying. I definitely have given it some time and effort. Since I bought the game 2 years ago, I've been playing it on and off. When I first started playing this game, that's just where I started. I did some runs in Novice, and, you know, it's more doable, but I really felt like I wanted to stick with normal and just kind of figure it out. But in the meantime, when I would bounce off of normal and not be successful, I would kind of move into the other modes like boosted, arrange boosted, regular arrange. Actually, one of my favorite modes to kind of jump into after I get frustrated, or after I got frustrated with a run, would be actually a range score attack, which was a time limited run, and it was really just like get the highest score you possibly could in a very short amount of time. So that was cool, and this game is good for that. It's got a lot of modes, a lot of difficulty settings, and it has that added challenge of unlocking the Type Z ship as well over time after collecting a certain amount of stars, which adds a little bit to it. But you know, a range boosted, I had played it a little bit before, but I never really like sat with it for a while. But for whatever reason, over the last couple of weekends, I was really getting into it, and I was having a lot of fun. And I started to get to like stage 3, stage 4, then eventually stage 5, and I was like, oh, maybe I could actually do this. So it started to become a doable goal for me. So let's talk about what a range boosted mode actually is. So you end up with a Gradius style upgrade bar at the bottom. You can build and choose your upgrades. You can get option formation changes. And so that breaks down to formation, search, and sight. Formation, I believe, keeps your options at a specific position. Sight actually allows you to do some concentrated damage and requires a little bit more skill and attention. And then the option setting that I usually had stuck with for most of my runs was search, which I think worked out for me, but probably is not the best option for getting the highest score possible, I would imagine. And then the other options you have are around your shield and your brake. And I chose semi-automatic because even going through this, you're trying to pay attention to so many different things, where I was like, if I leave it on semi-auto, essentially it picks up all the shields for me automatically so that I don't miss them, because that Gradius bar fills up pretty quickly sometimes. And the last thing you want is to miss a shield, because in this mode you get a lot of resources, shields included, in order to move forward through the game. And the other big thing about this mode is collecting those really large medals or stars. The more you collect, you'll see there's a counter up on the top. Right now it's around 300 of 400, and every time you reach that higher number, you get an extend, and that goes up to 900. So that's awesome. And then to the right of that, you have your overall star counter, and every time you reach one of those milestones, you get an extend. So playing through this, I got a lot better and better at going through stage 1, 2, and 3. The whole idea was get through the first 3 stages without losing a life. You'll get hit, but you'll have your shield. And then the other mechanic here is using your brake. And double brake is completely removed, that you would normally get in normal mode. But the difference about this brake is it's not time constrained. When you get a brake in this mode, essentially your rank just shoots up to maximum, and bullet speed start increasing immediately, and bullet density starts increasing, and it just starts coming at you a lot faster. And the idea, I think calling it hot potato was what I was calling it, because essentially the game is saying, okay, here is here's a break, and this is your opportunity to get a bunch of scoring done, but it's only going to last until you get hit. So you better watch out. And the more you play through this mode, the better you get at being able to handle the increased velocity and density that's coming at you. But it's really like a risk and reward type of thing. And it also really explains to you how to score in this mode. And really that this mode is truly, I think at its core, it's a scoring mode. But my goal for this was to get through it with a clear, with all the resources that the game gives you, and you still do have to perform enough to maintain those resources and not completely blow it. But, you know, when you compare this to normal mode, it's a bit easier. But it's, to me, it's still difficult enough to feel rewarding once you get through it. And I also think that playing through this, it's gotten me more interested in doing a normal clear, and it's just got me more interested in the game in general, because you're sinking your teeth in, you're really diving deep, and you have some familiarity with the game. I thought it might be helpful to compare this to my Kai Khan clear, because I think in terms of difficulty and time spent, for me it was around the same amount. And that's kind of doing the no homework route, which again is ill-advised. That's just my silly hang-up where I like to try to figure stuff out on my own, and I don't want to know too much going into it, at least for the first clear. And I think with Kai Khan, I would say it took 2 weeks or 2 weekends. You know, I focused a lot of my play on the weekend days, but if you added it all together, it would be like 2 weeks of play. If you consider like my average play time in a given night might be anywhere between 2 to 4 hours and a little bit more on the weekends. And so I feel like Crimzon Clover Arrange Boosted was right around that same commitment. It was about 2 weeks of mostly playing this and then focusing on it on the weekends on my play. But the cool thing is, at least for me, this game also had me so interested that I was starting to overcome some of my shmup ADD, and I was able to really focus on trying to get this thing done, and it paid off. And I set an arbitrary goal too. I wanted to get 5 million. When I was first starting my runs, you know, I was getting close to the end with like sometimes 2 billion, which seemed kind of low. And I ended up on the leaderboards, and I posted some screenshots because people have hilarious screen names, so I just had to share some of that stuff. But I'm still way down there, but 5 billion felt like it's not even close to a top score. But it's definitely better than what I was doing when I was really just scraping by. So 5 billion was just something arbitrarily I set, and I reached that. But in order to do a really good score for this game, I'd have to set the bar much higher, which is totally fine, but I still had a great time with this. I also have to say that when I started playing this mode, I had switched my game options to the arranged soundtrack away from original. Now, Potechi, who actually did the original soundtrack, nothing against him, but Gryzor's version really is now stuck with me. I totally favor the arranged soundtrack now, and even in this stage, stage 3, the theme song for this stage is like a kind of like a jungly drum and bass type of beat and that kind of thing, and that really, I don't know, it really hit for me. And just most of the tracks, they just really hit for me. And this is one of the first times I could think of where I had listened to the original soundtrack almost all of the time, and then switching to the arranged, I don't know, it just did something for me. So that was kind of cool too. I would also just say that this mode is fun. Straight up, this mode is just pure fun. And there's a lot of adrenaline involved, especially when you hit your brakes. Again, because the speed of the things coming at you is just, it's pretty intense. I also feel like there was this noticeable progression that I started to feel towards my last few runs as well, where I was able to get a little bit better in terms of resource management, in terms of scoring, and just performing better. It just started to click. And that's the other thing with me and shmups too. Like, I will gravitate towards a game where I really start to feel like it clicks with me. Like, I try not to force it, but somewhere along the line, like, a game will click with me, and then I will just kind of I'll go forth with that. And I think that's what this mode kind of did with me. You know, making content, sitting down here and doing this, you know, commentary and messing with the intro, which is all kinds of fun for me just to do. It really does take away from my playtime, which is already limited. It does take away from the time that I like to spend watching everybody else's videos. And so I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to find a better balance where, you know, maybe a little bit less creating, more playing. That's just how I feel at the moment. But I got to tell you guys, I am really, really just having a little bit of fun. It's just, you know, whether I'm playing, creating, or what have you, it's just fun. It's just fun for me. A lot of fun, actually. And I could tell that everybody else out there posting a ton of clears, commentary, everyone else is having a great time too. And that is awesome. I love it. So anyways, back to the game here for a minute, I guess. You know, here in stage 4, it does start to, as you would imagine, you know, the difficulty starts to ramp up a little bit. And this is all modeled loosely after the normal stages anyways. So you already have a sense as to what's coming. But this sequence is not, none of these sequences are completely foreign to you. They do change, like the bullets, the patterns, sometimes they change the colors, but it's not completely foreign. So you have, again, a frame of reference going in if you've played the normal mode. Even if you've played normal novice, you have some kind of an idea of what to expect. The other thing, and I looked around for some of this, but the documentation on the game, I don't know, I think I have to do more research, but when I started to do runs where I was starting to break like 4 and 5 million around stage 5, I felt like the game, and I don't know if this was random or if this is based on your performance or how much resources you have towards the end, but the game seemed like it started to change the bullet patterns and the difficulty of those patterns at some point. I experienced that at least twice, and I want to say it was during my higher scored runs, where I was expecting one pattern and I got a different one. So that is one thing I don't know, and I'd love, you know, for someone to set me straight on that, if that's true or if that's documented somewhere. That'd be great to know. I probably could figure it out if I do some more research, but I just haven't had the time. But that was another factor. By the way, I think stage 4 was where I started dying, and I have this kind of syndrome now when I'm going for a clear. I'm stuck in this little syndrome where I call it resource squandering, which that's just what I'm calling it. But I feel like mentally, I feel safe because I have the resources, whatever it is, 6 or 7 lives in the bank, right? But I also feel like that gives me a false sense of security, and then I don't know if it forces me to play sloppier because I know that I'll be picked up or what. But it just seems like a thing where I keep having my resources fall apart at the end. Like, I've had runs through all of these sequences where I didn't die. I could make it through the regular main boss, the big giant ball guy, where he's like stomping on you. I've made it through that sequence so many times without getting touched, and I'm pretty sure in this run I died like twice. And I know that I could do better than that, but I don't know what it is. Like, it just it just starts to fall apart, and I squander it. And by the end of this run, when I get to the second TLB, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it after having 6 or 7 lives going into stage 5. So, you know, that's something that I have to shore up for my play. So yeah, stage 5 starts off, and I think what I was trying to do here was I noticed that I'm at 4 million, and I'm like, I need to get that up higher. So any chance that I had to break, I was like, I'm going to break and just try to get some more scoring in here. And I don't remember exactly how many times I did break in this stage, but I tried my best to really put something together. But then right there, you know, when you get hit and it kills your break, it kind of kills your momentum, right? And if you can get through like the better part of a stage while you're breaking and not get hit, it's huge for scoring, but it's also a huge confidence boost for you, because you're like, all right, not only did I make it through that, but I made it through that in break mode, which in this mode, it's like, that's something. But yeah, I mean, when you're watching this and you're just seeing all this visual chaos, it's beautiful, it's intense, and it just, I don't know, it just draws you in. And it's one of the reasons why I love this game. And I would say to you, you know, I was definitely intimidated by Crimzon Clover, even from the beginning. And in general, it's known as a pretty, you know, it's not an easy game necessarily. But I do feel like, you know, jumping into this mode kind of, I don't know, I feel like it kind of gives you a different sense of the game where you're like, all right, maybe this isn't so intimidating. And that's at least how I see it. That's how I experienced it. And it again, it's made me want to go deeper into the game, which, you know, what more could you ask for from a mode? So if you haven't tried this mode, give it a shot. I think it's really doable. And again, I say this, if I could do it, you could definitely do it. Trust me. I am a slow learner, and I'm still a shmupper in training. So take that for what you will. And I forgot to mention at the top, you know, I'm using the Type C ship, and that's mostly because of how fast it is. And in this mode, you do have to pick up as many of those big stars as possible, and they have a bit of a heavy fall, meaning they fall kind of quickly. And if you're using one of the other two ships, sometimes you can't get to the other side of the screen in time. So also, to me, I'm leaning on Type C as a crutch too, in order to, you know, have every possible advantage I could possibly have in order to get this done. I feel like this sequence is really cool too, where you got the stage 2 boss kind of crawling up after you, and the screen is kind of cut in half. You're starting to feel claustrophobic, and you got to watch both the little enemy guys, the little drones up at the top, make sure they don't reach the boss. But then you got the boss behind you, and if they reach him, then he starts firing patterns at you from behind, and it's a really cool sequence. I just have to say that. I remember the first time I encountered this sequence, I was like, is this going to be some kind of like weird boss rush collage? And then it actually felt daunting, because I felt like that was what it was going to be way back whenever the first time I experienced this was. And I was really happy and glad to know that it was not that. But that was my first thought when it first happened. I think it's coming up where, let's see. Yeah, I think it's this part. This sequence. It reminds me of the DFK Stage 5 laser wheels in some way. I feel like it's not exactly that, but it just, I don't know, there's a little bit of an essence of it, because it's a little bit of a gauntlet to go through, like the laser wheels were. And it's not as hard, obviously. At least this version of it is not as hard as the laser wheels. But it just reminds me of that. It's like, here is a ton of shit coming at you. Get through the gauntlet as kind of like a last challenge to you to get to where you need to go. So I don't know. Does anybody else feel that about that sequence, or am I the only one? It very well could be an intentional nod for all I know, but that's just I don't know, that's just how I feel with those kind of laser beams trapping you and enclosing you and forcing you to kind of plan around them and kill them as quickly as possible. And here is the final stage boss. And it starts with this sequence with, you know, throwing some cannon fodder at you, build up some bar. But funny story about the stage boss to TLB to TLB2. I didn't do my homework, and I just didn't know this stuff going in. But when I beat the final stage boss, I was like, oh, that's it. Great, I'm done. And then the TLB shows up. And then I was stuck on the TLB for a little bit until I figured out a strategy that worked for me. And I was so excited to get through the TLB. And then as soon as the TLB1 dies, he comes back to life, and it's a whole new fight. And so as I had planned all my resources and all my strats around killing the first TLB, then I had to kind of go back to the drawing board and be like, all right, I got to improve my play so that I get through this second TLB. And I just thought that was funny because, you know, it's an example of going through a game in like real time and just discovering this stuff. And that is one of the pitfalls of not doing some homework before you get started into a game, because I could have prepared myself, but alas, I did not. But I had fun just the same. And again, like I was saying, I've made it through this sequence so many times without getting so much as touched. And I don't know if it was nerves or if it was just sloppiness, general sloppiness, but I'm pretty sure I died like once or twice. I think twice, maybe. Hopefully not more than twice. But it's about consistency, and that is one of my issues. I have to be more consistent with my play. I'm hoping that is something that I can work on specifically the more I keep playing and the more I improve at specific games. But yeah, all right, I died there once. That was totally unnecessary. But I guess you would say I was a little out of position to deal with that barrage. And sometimes I want to say that those bullets don't come right there. That was unnecessary. I almost never get hit there because as long as you have your timing and your rhythm down, it's fine. All right, so I died twice there, totally unnecessarily. And so I'm down to, what is that, 4 lives? And here's the TLB. And I definitely don't have this down pat, but I felt pretty confident. And actually, for the last 3 runs, this opening sequence of bullets, for some reason, I had kept getting clipped. And I think it was just because of the way I was moving. But there I did not get hit. And it's just weird sometimes what you get stuck on and some of the things you actually don't get stuck on. Like, to me, those blue patterns or purple, whatever color they are, that's a whole other story. But whatever color that previous pattern was, those were pretty tough. And also, I feel like those patterns don't always come either. And so I do have some problems positioning with this pattern once it speeds up. But again, I've done this sequence properly several times, but there I died twice. And I'm down to two lives. And this, in terms of rhythm and timing, this sequence, I felt like I had down pretty well. Basically, play like bullfighting, Toro Toro Ule, until he gives you side bullets, and then start getting him from the side, and then kind of move towards the center. Again, I don't know if that's the best strategy, but it seemed to be what worked for me. And a couple of times, and I think that's what I pulled footage from for the intro, right there, when he comes back to life, I didn't know that you have to get out of the way, and I would just get hit when he reappears, and that's always an unnecessary death. And so I'm down to 2 lives, and there's a hit, but I have the shield, and these patterns are intimidating if you're not expecting certain things. But I've seen most of these, and these are super fast homing patterns, like heat seeking, and you got to be really careful, no matter what. And I couldn't imagine doing this with a slower ship either. And so I did pretty well there. Okay, and I'm getting close. And then this pattern, again, I've done that sequence so many times. Fine, and I got clipped there, down to my last life. And in my mind, you can imagine what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this again. Got hit there, but I had the shield. And then here it is, boom, dead again. No lives left, right? Squandered all of my resources. Classic me. And somehow I pulled it off right at the end there. I was so happy that I got that done. And I remember that night I was like, now that I think about it, it's been a few days. It's been a couple days. And I have not really played much since then. I needed a little bit of time away from the game. But it felt so satisfying to go through that process and get the clear and get the score that I arbitrarily set for myself. It was a PB for me, and that was cool. But I would say give this mode a shot. Crimzon Clover has a lot to offer, like I said, in terms of modes, in terms of difficulties, in terms of visuals, and the arranged soundtrack. Even if you're playing normal, set your soundtrack to arrange and see if you like it better or worse. But yeah, that's really it. I had a fun time. I had a blast. One of my most fun clears up to this point. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think, and see you in the next one.